Weekend is almost here, but until then, we have to get through this Thursday. This is a Thursday morning edition of Mic'd Up here on Pittsburgh Sports Live and Pittsburgh Sports Now, presented by Martin Lawn Services, of course. He's Mike Vukovcan. I'm Mike Asti. We have some major transfer news, some players, Pitt basketball, even West Virginia football, leaving their programs, respective programs. We have it covered on Pittsburgh Sports Now and WV Sports Now. It's going to headline this show. We also, of course, we can't not talk about it, even though now we're 24 hours later. Chase Claypool brings the Steelers some news and keeps up our streak of being able to talk about the Steelers every single day.
Yeah.
Seemed like we're going to take a day off, but this is not about losing a player. This is about a player on the team providing a little bit of a black eye, and we'll give our thoughts on how bad it looks, how much trouble he may or may not get into, because this certainly could trickle down into suspension. We will get into all of that here later on in the program. But, Mike, to start things off, Pitt has been a program that fans are certainly in the midst of an off-season freak-out session. Really, ever since their season parted away and they did not make the NCAA tournament, fans were yearning for more, feeling like this year maybe was a missed opportunity. We talked on yesterday's show with Justin Champagnie testing the NBA waters. He may return, but he's testing the NBA waters, which can happen, and that's not too shocking. But what's been shocking, Xavier Johnson, Tony, now Coulibaly also transferring out of this program, fifth Pitt player to transfer out of this program and enter the transfer portal. That doesn't even include Champagnie, who's testing the NBA waters. There is a mass exodus out of the Pitt program. Fans are freaking out. Is this a big deal for you? Is this particular move more surprising than maybe the others, especially the timing of this move? And what impact does this now have on the Pitt program? Because I know that you're seeing some comments on your site where some fans are really having some nightmares of the Kevin Stalling days in the program where Jeff Capel took it over, feeling like they're almost back there again, even though it appeared Jeff Capel dug them out. But did he?
Well, it's a loaded question. Let me answer a couple.
Sure.
Couple at the beginning, and then we get to that one. It surprised me, yes, just because of the fact that Coulibaly started 20 of the 22 games for Pitt at center. He averaged 23 minutes a game for them. He wasn't a guy like Gerald Drumgold that was looking for playing time.
Right.
Coulibaly sort of had his role here. For those Pitt fans now that are saying, okay, well, if he had playing time, is it like the Xavier Johnson, Adis Tony? No, in that I talked to somebody last night that is very close to Coulibaly, and the reason why he transferred was entirely different than Johnson and Tony, whereas those guys had philosophical issues with Jeff Capel and what was going on within the program, the chemistry and other things. Coulibaly believed that he liked Jeff Capel, he liked the coaching staff, except he didn't like and didn't believe his role with the team was going to change. He's known as a defensive player, a rebounder, and he believes that he has more offensive skills to show.
Okay.
And after approaching the coaching staff a couple times about possibly his role changing and using his offense more, he didn't believe that was going to happen. So he decided to leave. So I have no problem with that.
Yeah, that makes sense because, again,
Yeah.
you have to take care of yourself, and there's whether we like the rule or not, or anybody likes the rule or not, with this kind of epidemic now of transfers being able to just kind of move on and do whatever they want. You're certainly able to take advantage of that. It's more power to you to take advantage of that to better yourself. I didn't feel the Xavier Johnson and Tony decisions were as surprising either, just because you could even listen to Jeff Capel's comments about Xavier Johnson in particular the weeks prior, where he kept talking about he needs to stay out of foul trouble. He needs to play smarter basketball. Not to say he was trying to needle the guy, but I could see a player probably not loving that criticism a little bit. It appeared Jeff Capel was providing tough love, and maybe Jeff Capel knew this player's probably gone, so I'm going to speak my mind. I don't know. It wasn't the friendliest comments by Jeff Capel in those last few game press conferences about Xavier Johnson. So for him to leave, that didn't surprise me. For another Pitt player to leave, especially when he was getting playing time, surprising. But as you put it, maybe he wanted a
Yeah,
different style of playing time.
yeah, he thought that, and I don't necessarily. While I respect Koulibaly, he was known as one of the. He gave the coaching staff no problems. He was a good team player,
Right.
hard worker. Uh, I don't I don't buy. That's too hard of a word. I thought the way Capel was using him was okay. I don't know that, but hey, he's able to maybe now go to a different program
Do you
and
think
prove
he can be more? Does he have it in him, or do we not even know? We can't fairly judge because we didn't see it.
That's a great point. I don't know. Capel obviously doesn't believe so. He liked, and maybe
Right.
he could develop a little bit more. But Koulibaly is betting on himself, and
Got to
he,
respect that.
yeah, Marshall. I was told that Marshall was the one of the first two programs immediately after he entered the portal to reach out to him. So I think that would be a great situation. I think a mid-major school, a high mid-major school that plays good basketball will be a place that Kareem could
Right.
possibly excel in.
Yeah, and there's not a Justin Champagny there to take that offensive production away. So maybe he would be able to be more of a focal point on an offense, marshal a program that is trying to build themselves up, that had some aspirations of the tournament this year, didn't happen for them. But who knows? And yeah, mid-major might make sense. We'll see.
Let me ask you this, Mike. We have this comment here. As you can imagine, the message board was.
I'm sure 5 players. I'm sure.
Oh yeah, it's completely anti Jeff Capel right now.
Which is
This
shocking because he was so loved for a while.
Yeah, well, this is the flavor of the month. If
Right.
he adds a couple, 5,
Right.
6 players, which he's going to do, then
Sure.
they'll switch back.
Yeah.
Here's a comment from Chris D.
Okay.
This is the Kevin Stallings era all over again. I hate to say it, but it is. We have to start from square one once again. Very frustrating. Kevin Stallings era. Let me ask you. We're running this poll later today on Pittsburgh Sports Now. Is the Pitt program any better off now than they were when Kevin Stallings was fired 4 years ago? Was that just complete overreaction?
Yeah, I think that's a real overreaction. I do think the program's better off for one key reason, and it's kind of what you touched on. Even though losing 5 players in an offseason, whether it's a pandemic or not, is not good. Nobody can say this is good news, especially if you add in Justin Champagny not returning. Although there's much more confidence now for Jeff Capel, who's proven it year after year. You can say what you want about coaching, about maybe how they have puttered the season away, how they have been worse as the season progresses, and now maybe his relationship with players, has lost a couple key guys, but he's been able to recruit with the best of them. Even from the resume of recruiting at Duke, and actually you can ask Coach K, improving their recruiting base, which is incredible to do at a program, a blue blood like Duke with Coach K there. So I think there's more confidence that he can build it back up, that he can use those 5 or 6 scholarships to replace those guys, get solid guys that'll fit in. There are going to be tons of guys available, as you have touched on. It's not like he's not going to have a pool to pick from. There's going to be an Xavier Johnson, Tony, Koulibaly type of player out there in the market. So that's one advantage. Teams that are losing a lot of players, they have more to pick from than in most years. And when Kevin Stallings was there, Mike, as you recall, they were a laughing stock of the ACC those couple years. They were lucky to get any wins at all. There were polls if they were going to go winless in the conference, and I don't think there was a respect there even on the national broadcast. They almost are being made fun of. This year, with the emergence of Justin Champagny, the fact that after the Duke win, say what you want about Duke this year, they were being talked about as a tournament-eligible team. Yes, they declined, and yes, it's their fault they didn't get in, but – there's more respect there. They're more competitive in the conference games. They're closer to being an NCAA tournament team. And even if you lose all these players and then you say next year they're taking the step back again, there's more confidence he can recruit and bring those players back. I don't think an outsider or a player coming up, whether it be high school or looking to transfer, is going to be upset about playing under Jeff Capel, knowing his career, whereas they might not have been as excited under Kevin Stallings. And even just listening in the press conference, Kevin Stallings didn't get me excited. He didn't reinvigorate anybody. He kind of made you go to sleep. That's not the case with Jeff Capel. So they're way better off now than they were under Kevin Stallings. I don't think they're as well off as people maybe dreamed of a few years into Jeff Capel with the hype that he had and where he came from. And maybe this year was a missed opportunity about not getting in the tournament. That would make the resume look better. And this isn't good. But I can't think of many programs that we cover across the network that are not better off than when Kevin Stallings was leading Pitt.
Yeah, I agree with especially your last part of the of your statement there is that I think Pitt fans are frustrated. A comment like that from Chris, I think, comes out of the fact that the
I can understand it.
expectations for Capel were great and probably too much coming for where he's from. While
it's because he came from Duke, right?
Yeah, exactly. And while it's your right as a fan to be frustrated as much as you want, you also can't be ridiculous in the fact that Kevin Stallings was 4-32 in the ACC and 0-18 in his last year in the ACC here with Pitt. 0-18.
Can you remember a worse year where you were maybe more like wincing your eyes watching Pitt basketball?
No. So it's in the games this year, there were only a handful of games, or not even a handful. There were a couple games this year where Pitt wasn't in the game and had a chance to win in the last under 8.
Yeah,
the under 8 minute mark. They were in games. Maybe they weren't successful, but these games with Kevin Stallings, when they were 0-18.
They're way out of it. Yeah.
Oh, they were getting their ass kicked.
And honestly,
there was no. The game was over in the first half.
Right.
It was embarrassing when he was here. So I think it's ridiculous to say that.
Yeah, absolutely. And just real quick here before we move on, I can actually tell a story to make this fan feel a little bit better. And I don't think any former players are going to be saying this anywhere right now under Jeff Capel, even though they want more out of it. I was co-hosting a show on The Fan at that time, and Blair and several former players we would have on continuously, and they actually felt comfortable on the Pitt flagship station to say they were embarrassed of the program. They didn't want to watch the games. They were legitimately embarrassed of the program, which is, when you think about it, shocking for a former player to say on the flagship station at the time, 93.7 The Fan. That's not being said now. I don't think they're embarrassed of Pitt right now. They want more, but that's not being said now. But 0-18, you could kind of get why a former player would be embarrassed.
Yeah. And the Pitt wasn't the only team in our network to lose a team, and Neil Brown lost a big one. They're in camp, spring camp, and held his first press conference yesterday, or at least meeting with the media. And it was announced later that night that they lost a big one in Tyke Smith, Mike. He was a huge All-American type safety from Philadelphia, Imhotep Charter School. And that came out of the blue, right?
To say the least, especially the timing of it, I think is shocking. You're gearing up for spring practice. Honestly, West Virginia's season last year was a bowl season. That was a step above where they were a season ago. Everybody knew that when Neil Brown took over, it was going to be a maturation process. He didn't really have his players. It kind of was a little bare with a lot of players graduating, like Will Greer and company, after Daniel Holgerson left. And it was growing pains for a year. And now Neil Brown, after 2 years in, many of my colleagues, even in West Virginia media that I've had on shows and been on their shows, they literally refer to Neil Brown's first year as year zero, because it just wasn't fair to gauge things. Last year being that true first year, build it up, and mostly build it up, Mike, because of the defense. The defense, very underrated. I think people forget with how they finished. West Virginia's defense was ranked number 1 in the country at one point last year, midway through, and that was after the Vic Koenig controversy, where many thought they didn't even have a true coordinator. It was going to be horrible. Partly it was a success story because of Tyke Smith, who was a third-team All-American, 60-plus tackles. He was a force on that defense. The timing's weird here. I don't think that – I know this has been tweeted by some colleagues of ours. I don't think this means Neil Brown has lost the locker room, or this is a major concern that everyone all of a sudden hates Neil Brown. I'm not going to go there because I just always hear positivity from players or anyone around the program. But the timing is bad. It certainly doesn't make the defense better for next year. And I don't know where he's going to go, but someone's going to get a stud for sure. So, again, I don't know what to make of it. We're going to hear a lot more about it. I think the timing is the most surprising part of this, especially thinking that Neil Brown kind of had that locker room close together. And even players that spoke out and said that they felt him and Shane Lyons, the AD, handled the Vic Koenig situation so well that they supported him. So I don't know what triggered this. It can't just be, like we mentioned with some basketball players. I cannot imagine it being playing time or production or system, because he excelled under Neil Brown last year, unless he wants first team All-American. But it's not like he wasn't getting it done and wouldn't have a bigger role this year, you'd figure. So the timing's weird. Certainly big news. Certainly going to host the program. Again, it's the phrase of this offseason for college sports. We'll see, because I don't know what they're going to do to replace that or what's going to happen. But
I'll just say
it's
this.
Surprising.
I'll just say that if anytime I hear in college football, basketball, something fishy going on and players all of a sudden leaving, I equate that with SEC. So that's all I'll say.
Okay, yeah, probably, because I can't imagine Neil Brown's losing the ship right now, but maybe.
I have no further details, but if I was still a gambling man, I would
Right.
I would lay some dinero that Mr. Smith ends up somewhere down south someplace at a
Wouldn't
SEC
shock
program. We shall.
Would not shock me at all. Of course, that's the one trump card that even if you're running your program as best as you can, it can't beat that. Of course, Mike Vukovcan giving you some betting tips. We will let you know though that if you take our betting tips, it's not our fault if you lose your money. Don't blame us here. Don't blame Doug Martin and Martin Lawn Services either. You can call him at 412-849-5894, but not to yell about any betting tips that we gave you that did not hit. I'm Mike Asti here on Mic'd Up. And Mike, as we kind of finish out the morning show here, it's not just college sports. It couldn't be a show unless we talk Pittsburgh Steelers. They're in the news again. This is not about a player that's been signed or left or really about their offseason. Chase Claypool, we get video that he is in a bar fight in California. TMZ, of course, they dropped the bomb. They love doing this. There is video that shows him kicking somebody in the head. There are many that are claiming that he was breaking up this fight. That's been kind of the friendlier way to report this. There are others that are claiming that he shouldn't be in this at all and needs to be aware that as a professional athlete, everyone has a camera. And if you're breaking up a fight, it's kind of weird. I said this. It's kind of weird for me that if you're breaking up a fight, you're kicking someone. That doesn't seem to be breaking up a fight to me.
Right.
But what are your thoughts? And does this give you a higher level of concern that we are going down the Devo receiver path? This is now the second time Claypool has been involved in a negative off-the-field news story this offseason, going back to his comments about, I don't care about losing to the Browns. They're going to get smacked by the Chiefs. People didn't like that. But this could even be worse, because this could get him suspended a couple games next year. And despite it being a receiver corps that has depth, this is just not good.
No, unfortunately, I think I stated this a couple of weeks ago. It's anyone that has any sort of vision that can see, that's paying any sort of attention, see where this is all headed with Chase Claypool. Unfortunately, he's heading down the path of Antonio Brown. Maybe not that extreme, but more so.
It's a bad path.
Yeah, well, I shouldn't say Antonio Brown, because that's the depths of hurt. But you're more so with the juju as far as being the distraction and all the off the field stuff. And it's unfortunate, because I believe he maybe more so than any of the probably not Antonio Brown, but I think Chase Claypool has way more on the field talent than Juju Smith-Schuster does.
I agree. Similar and a bigger body.
Bigger body, speed, go up and make the tough catches. He's a deep threat. I think he has big time potential as far as his on the field. Right. Unfortunately, his role model in Pittsburgh to this point has been Juju, and he's learning all the stuff not to do off the field as well. And while people are probably telling him that it's not that big of a deal, you'll be able to separate it. Stuff like this just indicates what the path they're heading down, unfortunately. And at some point, I think you have to start as an organization, you have to start with the Steelers questioning, are they doing a good enough character job looking at guys they're bringing in? Uh, are these guys getting instructed when they're drafted? Just there's too many cases like this for this just to be a coincidence.
I
And
think, though, that second part is what you hit on, though. There has been nothing that's been reported about his college career or the past. I think that once they get into the Steelers facility, they make some money and they have the influences that are around them that are there. Granted, Cam Hayward's a great guy and he's there too, but it seems like the ego then runs amok, certainly at that position. And we've known that throughout NFL history. It's not just the Steelers. Two of the three best receivers of all time are Randy Moss and Terrell Owens, and they are the biggest divas to ever grace pro sports, really. So it's the position too, but I think they're emboldened with, as great as Tomlin's been, and I do think he's a Hall of Famer and maybe hated a little bit too much around here. He does allow the inmates to run the asylum a little bit too much. He is a player's coach, or at least was for so long. And I think it's more when they get to the Steelers and the culture with the Steelers than it is prior to Pittsburgh. You got to assume they're vetting. I don't know. I will say, and this is hard to say because, yes, Juju was there first, so he could be the mentor that's leading him down this path. Juju's antics are annoying. I was behind him in traffic one time when he was dancing on the Fort Pitt Tunnel and was trying to record a TikTok. I wasn't down with that, of course. The dancing on the logo when they're losing makes it more about himself than the team. That sucks. But he's at least making money doing it, for the only defense. This is just in no way a plus for Chase Claypool. This is worse than anything Juju's done. This could be a legal problem, and this could get him suspended game. Juju at least hasn't been suspended on the field. I don't get it. And I know there are some outlets that want to support this man and will defend the Steelers and won't go against them no matter what anyone does. But, again, if you're breaking up a fight, number one, I got in some stupid fights in my early 20s, Mike, in college. I got in some stupid fights. I did some stupid things. Some of them were bar fights. I was a hothead. I was an idiot. I didn't sign my name to an NFL contract before that. I didn't have tons of money. I didn't have anyone in the franchise that I'd be hurting if I was doing something. And I wasn't having anyone defend me at the time. Any adult was like, this is dumb. You're an idiot. He's getting defended now. And I almost feel like you got to have some culpability to – when you're an athlete to that level, I don't care how old or young you are, you have to know that you could be on camera at any time. If I'm hanging out with my friends at that age with that money, I'm saying, Mike Vukovcan, you're coming over to my house, give me your cell phone. If I'm Juju or Chase Claypool, I'm not letting you record me because I don't trust anybody. I'd have those antennas up.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to be involved, but if I'm going to break something up, because we've also heard reports of a New England Patriots star breaking up a sexual assault and he's getting kudos as he should, you can't kick someone in the head. How are you kicking someone in the head, which can't be disputed, there's video of it, and breaking up a fight?
See, my bigger issue with this is regardless of how big of a story this is, because I saw some people tweet, it's, what they see, it's not, it's not that big of a thing. It's the long term that I'm more concerned about with him and the pattern.
Right.
That's what my issue is. It's not necessarily this incident. It's this incident, others, and what's ahead for this guy. And that's what I think. Right. And I don't know. He was in California. I'm real curious to see whether or not actually he was with Juju.
No, right, because Juju's from out there, went to USC. Well,
yeah, and that's where he was. That's what I'm saying. And they were together out there. I don't think those two were linked out there. Right. But I don't know.
You would see the blue hair in the video.
It's a bad offseason for the Steelers. The bad offseason continues. And, who knows what's ahead. But this is just par for the course of what's been happening so far.
Yeah, who knows what's ahead, but I'm waiting for some good news around the Pittsburgh Steelers parts because right now it's not been there. And, of course, we have a lot of question marks, so nobody knows for sure, and we got to evaluate this after the draft and even going into training camp to really judge the offseason. But right now it's not been good. A lot of this we kind of expected for years, but this certainly doesn't help. And another negative point here as I'll kind of finalize things with this, yeah, bad for Chase Claypool. It certainly can lead you to believe more is coming, and it's going to be a bad path that he goes down. But even Antonio Brown, and again, I'm not comparing the two because Antonio Brown was doing disgusting, horrible things. I legitimately believe he's a bad guy, and I was around him plenty. Antonio Brown wasn't breaking the law and fighting anybody and doing this stuff in only his second year in the offseason of his first year. He towed the line until he got the money. Ask any former player. Jeff Reed told me all the time on my trip show. He was fine. He was humble. Once he got the money, he went nuts. Chase Claypool's on a rookie deal going nuts. Can you imagine once he gets a mega deal? Like, this is earlier than AB. So maybe there's even more of a concern.
Yeah, exactly. That was my point there, is that the trail of what's happening so far in just his second year. And it's unfortunate, but it's also today's athlete and what these teams have to deal with. And, these coaches deserve all the money they get for having to deal with this crap. I'll tell you what.
Nobel Peace Prize. Tomlin's still looking for that to cap off his career. He's Mike Vukovcan. I'm Mike Asti. This has been another edition of Mic'd Up here on Pittsburgh Sports Live and Pittsburgh Sports Now, and really across the family of networks here in the Now family, of course, presented by Martin Lawn Services. Hit him up at 412-849-5894. And again, I say it to close every show, but it's really, really true right now in this time of year, because it's nuts. Every hour we don't know what kind of news is going to hit the wire. Check out the sites. We got all the coverage there. Make sure to check out the sites throughout the day, and we'll see you tomorrow morning.